Hi everyone. Welcome back to Liminal Hour. Imagine your life. Every single moment. Every laugh. Every tear. Every hug. Every joke. Now imagine you went to bed tonight. Close your eyes, falling into deep rest. Suddenly you feel a shift. Things are not quite as they should feel. And you open your eyes. And everything is different. You are not who you are. You're surrounded by people you don't know, in a life you don't know, only to be told that every memory you've ever had wasn't real. For some, this would be a nightmare. Some would say a blessing. But for one person, this wasn't just a question of what if. This was his life. And today, I'm going to tell that story. So sit down, relax, while I tell you the story of the flickering lamp. I never expected to meet the love of my life in a bookstore. It was raining that day. Gentle, rhythmic, pattering on the glass, like listening to a lullaby. I ducked inside, mostly to stay dry, not looking for anything in particular. I wandered through the aisles, filled with stories written by people who felt more real than I did. She was in the fiction section, red scarf, hair pulled up in a messy twist. She was reading a book with a cracked spine and coffee stains on the cover. I remember thinking she looked like someone who belonged in a poem. I walked over to her and said, "Good book?" I wanted to hear her voice more than anything else. She looked up, a little startled, then smiled. Slow, like the sun rising through fog. "Not really," she said, "but I like how it smells." And that's how it all started. Her name was Elise. We got coffee afterwards. She had a quiet way of talking. We didn't agree on much. She thought poetry was confusing, but I said it was a necessary kind of madness. She liked mint tea, but I drank coffee like it was medicine. She laughed at my jokes, even the bad ones. And her eyes felt like home. It didn't take very long. She moved into my apartment, tiny, cluttered, full of dust and crooked picture frames, but we turned it into a life, slowly. A plant on the windowsill, her records next to my books. Sunday mornings were spent in bed, listening to jazz and pretending we weren't late for anything. I proposed to her in the back of a pickup truck during a meteor shower. We were parked on a hill, blankets piled around us, the night sky open and infinite. I didn't have a ring, just a promise. She said yes. We bought a house, not a big one, just enough space for two hearts and their growing dreams. It had a creaky porch and peeling paint, a crooked mailbox, a tree in the backyard that dropped leaves like golden confetti every fall. We adopted a dog from the shelter, half lab, half mystery. Jamie named him Socks because he had one white paw. Jamie was our first. I still remember holding him in the hospital. He was so small. He barely made a sound. Elise cried, and I did too. 2 years later came Nora. She was born during a snowstorm. The power went out that night, and we wrapped her in blankets and sang to her by candlelight. Time passed in the way it does when you're too busy living to notice. There were birthday parties with crooked cakes, family picnics, nights falling asleep on the couch to old movies. Jamie learned the names of the stars and pointed them out from our backyard. Nora was an artist. She painted oceans, blue and wild, even though she had never seen one. Elise and I would sit on the porch after the kids were asleep, wrapped in old quilts, listening to the world breathe. And we fought sometimes, about bills, about schedules, but never about love. That part was always easy. And then one night, as we laid in bed, cuddled up together, the lamp began to flicker. It was the little one on the nightstand. We had found it at a flea market the year we moved in. It always gave off this amber glow, soft, like candlelight. We would joke that it was magic. But that night, it stuttered. Just once. Just one small twitch of light. I thought maybe the bulb was loose. But the next night, it did it again. And the night after that. And at first, it was subtle. But then other things began to shift. The pages in Elise's favorite book turned blank. Jamie's stars peeled off his ceiling and vanished. The tree in the backyard stopped losing its leaves. It just froze, caught in an endless, unmoving autumn. I asked Elise if she noticed anything strange, and she looked at me with sad eyes, but she didn't answer, just held my hand. And one morning, I woke up and couldn't remember how long we had lived in this house. It was like my memories had seams, little cracks where the light got in. And that night, the lamp didn't just flicker, it flared. It was blinding, white, like a door swinging wide open. And then, everything disappeared. The house, the garden, Elise, Jamie, and Nora just gone. I opened my eyes to a world that smelled like disinfectant and sounded like machines. I was in a hospital bed, tubed, wired, monitored. I remember raising my arms. Looking at them, they were thin. Laying on my chest was my hair, much longer than I remembered. And there were strangers around me. Nurses, doctors, a man who said he was my brother. "You're awake," he whispered. He sat down next to me and started explaining everything. I'd been in a coma for 8 years. 8 years of a dream that felt like forever. Of a life so real, I can still feel the weight of Nora sleeping on my chest. I can still hear Jamie asking about stars. I can still see Elisa's smile through the steam of a morning coffee. But they weren't real. Not in this world. They were born in the quiet of my mind. A refuge. A sanctuary. A life I never lived, but somehow loved more deeply than I can explain. The doctors were amazed. They said it was rare to wake up after so long. A miracle, they called it. But it didn't feel like a miracle. I felt like a man torn out of heaven. For months I grieved. Not just the lost time, but the loss of them. Every night I closed my eyes, hoping I could return to that house on the hill, to Elise, to the garden, to the flickering lamp. But dreams don't repeat themselves when they're gone. Not like that. Now, I live quietly. I paint. Sometimes I write. People call me lucky. And I am, in a way, because I got to live 2 lives. One written in the pages of time, and one written in the folds of the heart. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I'll sit in the dark and turn on the little lamp by my bed. It doesn't flicker anymore, but I wait anyways. And when I close my eyes, I can almost feel her again. Her hand in mine. The soft breath of a sleeping child next to me. The whisper of rain against the bookstore window. And for just a moment, it's enough. Thank you guys for joining me for tonight's liminal hour. If you'd like to hear more true stories, be sure you subscribe.